Welcome to Celestial Radio. We are your health, well-being and spiritual radio station worldwide. Welcome to this show. This is a show where we speak to Mark Sutton and Karen O'Moore about Tantra. What is Tantra and how can we lead ourselves into a life of ecstasy? So, welcome to our guests, Karen O'Moore and Mark Sutton. Good afternoon and welcome to Celestial Radio.
Good afternoon, Parveen.
Good afternoon to you.
It's wonderful to have you here on Celestial Radio, all the way from sunny Ireland. How is Ireland today?
We actually do have sun. I think it's one of the few days of the year that we're allowed to have it. It's great.
That's wonderful.
The universe is celebrating with us today. The sunshine's come out.
That's excellent to hear, Karen. Now, I'm going to come to both of you first of all, because this is a show where we're going to be speaking about Tantra and what is Tantra altogether, as in an understanding and misconceptions and sort of putting the ideas of this all as straight as possible as we possibly can in this time frame today. I'd like to first of all speak to both of you. If Karen, you could give me some information about your background and how long you've been doing this and what was your job before you came into this sort of work?
Well, Parveen, I'm originally from South Africa, so I'm really loving the sun, obviously, today. I've been 22 years I was in advertising and publishing, so strict deadlines every day of my life, and I loved it. And about 7 years ago, I just kind of reached a peak. I was a publisher of some award-winning magazines and just decided must be more to it. And for a few months I didn't know what I wanted, and I opened up a healing centre in South Africa and slowly found myself becoming more and more involved in Tantra. I've been doing Tantra, working with Tantra in my private life, and just started working more and more with people about working with them with their sexuality and with their life. It's a beautiful journey. And then at the end of 2011, I actually sold everything that I had, gave away everything that I had, and I moved to India to do some volunteer work. And my plan was to live there indefinitely. And then about 4 months later, I met Mark. And now I live in Ireland, and it's a big change. But yeah, we've been working together, living together for like 24/7, and doing a lot of work with Tantra, and it's been amazing. Yeah, people in Ireland are very open to it.
Wow, does sound quite amazing, because not everybody will understand this, but we're going to sort of look at speaking more about that in this show today. If I can come to Mark. Mark, do give us a little bit about yourself and basically what your work was before you came to do this, and your origination as well.
Yeah, I'm originally actually from Wigan in Greater Manchester, or Lancashire as it was then. And I'm originally trained as a scientist. I moved over to Ireland maybe about 17 years ago, working at University College Dublin. And then a variety of scientific jobs all the way through to a civil service scientific job for the past 14 years. And I realised that, yes, it was a job, but I had more a passion for human interrelationships. And I've been practicing Tantra for maybe 20 years privately, and about 7 years ago I began to investigate more fully and go deeper and deeper into this tantric life path with a teacher called Dawn Cartwright from America. And I went so deep in her year-long immersion that we came out of it with a greater understanding of who I was and where I wanted to go. And then I moved on into life coaching and intimacy coaching as well. So it's a whole holistic feel to what I'm doing now.
Gosh, it sounds quite amazing. And from a scientific point of view, when we look at this, maybe scientists would not really accept this sort of work?
Well, it's an interesting concept, that, but Osho, who really translated or did an interpretation of the ancient tantric texts, actually he claimed that Tantra simply meant method. And so method, to me as a scientist, really gels with it. And also experiential data, actually experiencing this, which is what Tantra is. Again, I've experienced it. It works. It's real. It works for me. So again, as a scientist, I'm interpreting that data and saying, yes, this is a system that is really powerful. It really, really works.
Well, this is what we're going to be finding out, exactly how this all really does work. But it's really interesting that you were into science as a scientist many years ago, and now you've come into this sort of work, which is very beautiful. It's almost like a dream come true for a lot of people who are on a spiritual journey or a path, and wishing to sort of see more people from, let's just say, medical sector, scientific point of view, from, you know, all sorts of that sort of almost like a black and white point of view to come forward and embrace spirituality.
I think you're right, Parveen. It's just a matter of connecting into yourself and finding your creativity, using the energy you have within yourself to actually allow yourself to be creative, to open to what you really want to do. And interestingly, when you do that, the universe actually flows with you. You find that the steps open up for you. Yeah.
So we'll be talking more about this in just a couple of moments' time, and we're just going to give our listeners just something to think about there as we sort of share more with our listeners on what Karen and Mark are going to be giving us on what is Tantra. It's going to be an interesting topic. Already I've noticed that Mark's mentioned Osho's name, and we love Osho here on Celestial Radio and share many of his teachings, but maybe we can come together and gel this and link together in what really Tantra is and how we can awaken to living a life of joy and ecstasy as well. Stay with us, and in a few moments' time we'll come back to our guests here from Ireland. Don't go anywhere just yet. So welcoming back our guests from Ireland here to Celestial Radio. We're going to be speaking further into understanding what is Tantra. And before we go into that, I just want to welcome Mark Sutton and Karen O'Moore for joining us on this special show today. And we've been sort of very, very briefly getting to understand and know Karen and Mark just briefly here. And we know that we connected through Facebook, which is becoming a great tool for many people. Wouldn't you say so, Karen?
Yes, it is. It is amazing because you not only get to speak to so many friends that you might have lost contact from the past, but it just somehow just seems to, you just draw people to you that are on the same wavelength as you are. So I just love all the inspirational messages that I receive, see on every day, and I get so many people thanking me for the ones that I post. So it can be, very uplifting tool as well, and very useful as well, getting to meet people and know people that I know we've also met a lot of people that we now facilitate and do workshops at the premises that they have and yoga studios, etc. like that. So it has been very useful for us in that aspect as well.
Wonderful.
Not at the least the fact we've met each other over Facebook.
Yes. Actually, is it
cheesy? Yeah.
Very, very, very cheesy. But we were both in the same space where we were just centered into ourselves and realised that relationship-wise we needed no one else to be complete. But then, and again, you talked about Osho. He said he never looked for love, but the door was always open. So my door was open and Karen walked through it. And the rest was 18 months ago, so
yes,
we're still here, yeah.
And I do hear there have been quite a few romances over Facebook as well, and I know that one of our biggest listeners moved to America to be with his loved one, so there we go, it really does work. And they shared some wonderful memories together as well. But coming back to you, Karen, I do believe it's your birthday today.
Yes, it is. So, that's why the sun's shining, Parveen.
Oh, so a very big happy birthday from Celestial Radio and our listeners, I'm sure, as well. And what we are going to do right now is come back into what is Tantra. So I'm wondering, who can explain that for me?
I think I'll sort of explain that. There's two aspects to Tantra. There's classical Tantra and Neo-Tantra. And classical Tantra is 5,000 years old, at the very least, and originated from the Indus Valley region of India. And over the centuries, it has developed into a process concerned with moksha, with liberation. And one of its central tenets is that you did not have to renounce anything to attain liberation, that you are essentially a little microcosm of the whole universe, and that you have everything inside of yourself that you need to become your own Buddha, if you like. Whereas a lot of religions say that you need to renounce the world, Tantra is very much immersed in the world. One of its central tenets is that you need to bring in the the separate parts of yourself, that separation is a cause of all our woes, all our ills, and that is separation in the physical separation, the sexual separation, the spiritual separation, so the separation from the body, the mind, our sexuality, because our sexuality is a very important part of who we are, and Tantra accepts this. Neo-Tantra, on the other hand, has come out from India, because into the West in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, when Osho began to put his interpretation on the Vijnana Tantra in his Book of Secrets. And he again began to talk very much about this tantric transformation. In his way of putting it, we in the West are completely separated from our bodies due to the fact we are preoccupied by sex. If you imagine that Tantra is the center line in the yin-yang symbol, then it's this path of awareness where we accept all aspects of ourselves, not the extremes on one side or the extremes of another, but we bring all of ourselves, our spirituality, our sexuality, all into our body, and we fully accept who we are. And that can go against a lot what we have been conditioned to believe. And a lot of what we do is about overcoming this conditioning, not to indulge in sex, but to enable you to access this beautiful, powerful energy that is your sexual energy, to allow it to flow through the body, to allow it to move through all your energy systems, and to give you a great awareness of yourself. Because when you have this beautiful awareness of who you are and where you want to go, then Tantra is a life path. It's a path for lovemaking, it's a path for connection, it's a path for transformation, and it's a path for healing. And Neo-Tantra brings a lot of work in of Wilhelm Reich and the bioenergetics work to allow you to have a free flow of energy in the body, because when we have this free-flowing movement of energy throughout the whole body, we have the potential for vibrant health, for vibrant connection, to really and truly fulfill our potential. And yes, to obtain moksha, to obtain this liberation. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Mark. It's really sort of interesting that we sort of understand how this really does work, because I think in the 70s and 60s and 70s probably, that people went into such flower power sort of energy and they misunderstood. So there's a lot of misperceptions really in understanding what Tantra was.
That's right, and they still carry through. I mean, it's not helped by if you can open the small ad paper within any newspaper in England or Ireland, and you will see somebody offering a Tantra-like sensual massage, which is not Tantra. That is a sexual service, and Tantra is not a sexual service. It is actually dealing with the whole body in its entirety, which includes your sexuality. And people assume that we've been said, you have orgies then, do you? Well, no, we don't. We just accept our sexuality, accepts everything. Does not exclude anything. It accepts celibacy, it accepts monogamy, it accepts polyamory. The whole gamut of life experiences, it simply says yes to them.
Mm-hmm. Right, because also that's what people can misunderstand, the word Tantra and the word sex, which is what most probably the younger generation will be sort of very, because we know that the lines have, become so much broader now for younger people to think that sex is okay and that they can start at such a young age. But again, Tantra and sex, there is a connection, what you are saying. I mean, this is a subject matter, I must admit, that we don't usually talk about on Celestial Radio, so this is quite unique for us. But on some level, is it something to shy away from, or do we accept it all, as in, because we are human beings?
Yeah, we are human beings, and our sexuality is an essential part of who we are. Our sexual creativity, our sexual energy is one of the primal life forces. It's a fundamental energy within the universe. When we accept sex as natural, we're not talking about indulging it here, we're just accepting it as natural, then it's integrating that part into ourselves. And it's the same with the energy centers in the body. Tantra believes every chakra is the same as every other. It should not be separated out into lower, into higher. It is all the same. But we have been conditioned to view sex in different ways. You will hear people talk about the porn industry as well, how that conditions us to view what we view lovemaking as. We're not having a connection there. When you're making love to yourself or making love to someone else, in Tantra, it's about the presence, using your breath, using your awareness to slow everything down, to be totally 100% present. And when you are in a relaxed state in lovemaking, then the energy flows through your system. Then you have the potential for turning sex into a meditation. Love becomes a meditation. Osho said, sex is the seed, love is the flower. So yes, when we incorporate that into our lives, it becomes a whole natural way of being. But we're not attached to it. We do not stare at computer screens. We do not attach to the term sex. And this is where the West has it wrong, basically, because you mention sex and it has a connotation, which Tantra says we do not have that connotation. We just accept it as natural.
Coming back to something that you also said, Mark, because it obviously dates back 5,000 odd years, and in ancient India and even in Indian temples, you will see, should we say, not deities isn't the right word, almost like sculptures that are put into like the temples. I'm trying to think of the right word, it's not coming to me right now. But they are actually, open and on show, as many of us here in the UK will sit back and watch some of these programs on India, and there will be very much sort of displayed out in the open of a male and female, together, sort of in that tantric sort of maybe position, maybe we can call it, I don't know. But again, it's quite open in India, even though there can be a little bit of taboo thing on this as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was watching a program, Stephen Fry was doing a program, and a lot of the taboos in India came from the Raj, believe it or not. We placed our morality onto the Indian morality. But with those temples like Kahujro and all the tantric temples, here's another way of looking at it. What they're depicting is lovemaking as the outside, the act itself. When done consciously, you move inwards. So you move inwards towards the silence at the centre of the temple, the silence that is the God within you. That's how Osho interpreted those temples. That the lovemaking was all on the outside, but when you took it inwards and allowed it to become part of you, you could go to the inner temple where Shiva, for example, would reside.
Okay. Also, I'd like to sort of ask you a little bit more on this, because obviously we're starting to get an understanding of Tantra, and there's two different types. You've got the classical, you've got the neo. The neo is more like, you say, the modern sort of understandings. Is that correct? Let's just go back to that.
That's correct, yeah. There's a lot of modern psychology coming into the neo-Tantra, and there's a lot of the bioenergetics works, the dealing with releasing stress, releasing tensions, allowing the energy to flow through the body. In reality, what's happening is Tantra is so malleable over these thousands of years that it's beginning to switch backwards and forth between India and the West. But the Western view of Tantra is more sexualized. It is more sexualized. And there are certain schools that do deal with connecting to your sexuality, just totally and exclusively. Allowing yourself to be fully sexual beings. But that's the way in. And we need to start somewhere, and it's because of our preoccupation with sex that Neo-Tantra has this focus to an extent. And we do a lot of work with couples. We do a lot of work with singles, dealing with many of the issues that arise for them during sex. Because when in sex and lovemaking you can bring intimacy into it, then you have the potential for it to become much, much more, to become this life path, to become this meditation. But we need to start with the basics, and the basics is overcoming our conditioning, and then allowing the people to move where they wish to move in their life. Because Osho, again, I'm a great big fan of Osho. He said that Tantra, these are a set of techniques. It's not a philosophy, it's a set of practical techniques. And they can be used for anything. They can be used for spirituality, for healing, for lovemaking, for relationships. But it's the same meditative, breathing and bodywork techniques.
Yes, I was just going to ask you, I mean, what is intimacy coaching as well? Because, I mean, what is intimacy coaching? Is it when you actually sort of work with a one-to-one or in couples with people just to get them to realise and appreciate one another? Or further into that?
Well, exactly, yeah, sure. I mean, so intimacy coaching from my aspect here is always, even in a couple, is starting with the individuals within that couple or an individual on their own, because intimacy starts with the self. It starts with that connection to the self and understanding, for example, the difference between emotions and the difference between feelings, understanding how your conditioning, how your subconscious, how your mind is affecting how you feel, how you act, what you perceive. And then find out what intimacy means for the person and intimacy means for the couple. Because intimacy may mean something specific to you, it may mean something specific to me, and it may mean something specific to Karen. And in intimacy coaching with a couple, we find the common ground. And intimacy is all about trust. You know, there are things that create intimacy. So it's trust, it's openness, it's expressing feelings, things that, particularly as a man, I had to overcome a lot of this inability to express my feelings. I was told it wasn't correct to express fear, express how scared I was, how frightened I was. And now I can do that. That's a way of enhancing intimacy, for example. Trusting your partner, connecting to your partner. And in the tantric field, one of our simple exercises is connecting just by using the power of sight. Just two people simply looking at each other, seeing each other for the first time. And certainly we've had people who've been married for 30, 40 years who are just now rediscovering each other because they take each other for granted. And intimacy is just about taking that time to rediscover each other and rediscover yourself.
Thank you, Mark, for that, because I think that is something in relationships, especially in the modern day relationship, that a couple together may not last such a long relationship together because they do not appreciate, or they become bored of one another. They don't, sort of acknowledge the real beauty with each other as well, for the reasons of why they got together in the first place, because it can wear off. But again, it's sort of actually what you're saying is that you're bringing that intimacy coaching in for people to understand and appreciate really whom they are, and as a couple together as well.
Yeah, and it really does dovetail very well with the tantric practices. When you create, for example, a sacred space for employing tantra, you're actually saying we're going to take time out to be together. We've got all the distractions of the modern day have been removed. The kids may be at granny's, the telephone is off, the television is off. We're just spending this time to connect together. And that's a simple but very powerful way for couples to continue to reconnect, using these simple tantric processes, giving themselves permission to just simply be with each other, be with themselves as well, and be open and be honest.
Yes, and this is where people are wanting to relax more as well, Mark and Karen, I want to say, because people are so busy in the work, people are trying to rush to make ends meet. Everybody's lives are busy nowadays, but it's that time when a person comes in from work late at night, had the dinner, and then it's time to just almost like fall asleep, and you forget that the other person is still sitting in the same room as you because of the busy days that both partners probably would have already had. So this is a good reminder, I think, what you're saying here, Mark, is for all of us listening in at this moment in time to look at going back to appreciating one another. We'll be taking you into some more music right now. Stay with us, sharing more here in a few more moments. And welcoming back to Celestial Radio, we've got Mark Sutton with us, who was previously a scientist and working on this spiritual level right now and giving us some understandings of how relationships and Tantra and bodywork is going to be about, because we're going to talk about that a little bit more on the bodywork of Tantra. What is this and how would a person really work with an individual? Because, first of all, some may see, and I think probably in the 70s and so forth, maybe a lot of people saw that Tantra was becoming a little bit of a cult or a sect or even a religion. And I'm just wanting to clear that with you right now, Mark. Could you give us more information on that?
Yeah, Karen wants to talk a bit about that, actually.
Yeah, it's actually none of those, Parveen, and there is that whole perception around it, and especially in India, I know a lot of the time you cannot even mention the word ashram, because a lot of people think that the ashrams are just full of sex and prostitutes, etc., like that. But Tantra is not a religion, it's not a cult. You can be Catholic and still be working with Tantra. It doesn't ask you to renounce any of your religions or anything. It simply is just a way of life, of really just exploring who you are and really connecting to yourself and your energy. It doesn't ask you to renounce anything or to become anything more than what you are. It's just really connecting to yourself and bringing your awareness to yourself.
That's very, very interesting, because also when we have people who tune in from India, they may also be a little bit blurred by this as well, because that's exactly what we've been hearing from listeners, that Osho has been given the wrong message for years and so forth. But maybe there's been a bit of a misunderstanding, because it was sort of, I believe that it was really sort of taken westernized and maybe people got a little bit confused way back 20, 30 years ago.
Yes, it does happen. I mean, I think Osho even said himself once, he's written so many books and given so many discourses, and I think only in one he actually mentioned sex. But that's just the way that, society is, and we'll take on hold of that one and just run with it and just create this huge big mountain out of it. It is nothing. Sexuality is just such a tiny part of what Tantra is. It's just that the whole big focus has gone around there, and it's just, just grown from that.
Yes. So we're going to come back to understanding what is Tantra bodywork and how does it work, because you also sort of mentioned something about breathing and the breath work in this. How does that actually work with Tantra, and how can we bring wellness through that as well, if there is such a thing as wellness through Tantra?
Well, the bodywork side of Tantra works on quite a few different levels. It's firstly, it gets you try to get you out of your mind as much as possible, and just that is hugely healing just in its own. If we just switch off our minds and get it back into our body, and really connecting with our body and with our energy, and really accepting the entirety of our bodies, every part of it, allowing ourselves to be touched. And just receiving that touch, it can be hugely beneficial. Many, many years ago, I used to do some volunteer work with babies that had been orphaned through AIDS. And it was simply a matter of just holding them while feeding them, which then helped them to survive. Because you can actually feed a baby through a test tube and they will die, just simply not being touched. It is so vital and it's so healing. So there is that, and there is also the aspect of allowing yourself to receive, which we don't always are very easy to give. We don't allow ourselves to receive, and then connecting with our energy. Our sexual energy is the most powerful energy in our body. It is such a beautiful energy, and instead of just approaching it in a sexual way, rather approaching it in a way of connecting to your energy, this beautiful energy, and allowing it to flow through the body instead of just being stuck in your genitals and in the pelvis, but allowing it to flow through your body, to flow through your energy centers, healing any blockages. There are just so many levels that it works. Women hold a lot of trauma, etc., within areas within their vaginas, their yonis, and it is very releasing in that aspect as well. But there's various ways that it does help. It really allows you just to relax a lot into your body. So it's a weird kind of because it allows you to relax, but it also builds energy at the same time.
So when we come into this sort of work, as you just sort of explaining to us, I mean, what is your ethos with this? Where do you draw the line, and where's the barriers and so forth?
Well, our ethos is our mission at Tantra Awakenings is to enable people to connect, heal, and transform, and living the life they desire through conscious breath, touch, and coaching. With myself and Mark, we have we're very strong on our boundaries. We do not have any sexual contact as such with clients. And as such, even when I was in South Africa practicing Tantra, I've never had anybody trying to cross the line with me because my boundaries are very strong with what I put out there. We don't feel that there is any benefit from any sexual contact between us and the client. So although even with body work, I might be working with the sexual energy of a person, it's not per se a sexual massage. And any clients that actually come and see me would even affirm that it's not a sexual massage, it's working with the energy. There's no, when you get to a place where you're moving away from it being a sexual massage, there's no goal of any kind of like orgasm or anything like that. It's really connecting to your body and allowing the energy to flow through your body.
This is interesting that you are actually making this clear, because sometimes people get the wrong perceptions, and it's good that you're actually explaining what your ethos really is, that it's not actually inclined in that way. That's really sort of something that I'm always interested in finding out, that where are the boundaries, and how do you actually work in the field that you work in, especially with this sort of subject matter.
I think as a practitioner in the field, the idea is that you're very aware of your own boundaries, and you also have a high degree of what's called emotional intelligence, that you're able to recognise feelings and emotion as they arise and be able to step away from them. In other words, you're not in your ego. You're not doing things to try and fix someone, because when you put the power into your client's hands, when the person realises it is their breath, it is their energy, is their own self that is generating all this, that can be incredibly healing, because they're reaping all the benefits of what they're doing. We're just fortunate enough to be able to facilitate this, just to share this. Our egos aren't attached to it, and that's the difference. We can with clear boundaries, our egos are very much put to the side. It's the person we are working with that is the most important in that situation.
Yeah, it's very important that, we hold a safe and sacred space to allow somebody to go onto their journey and reconnect with their body and energy. And that is really so vital to us that we hold that. We do not get involved with anything. It's a client session, and it's up to us to really to guide them. As Mark said, it's their energy that they work with. It's their bodies they're connecting with. We're just holding the space for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next question that I'd like to also ask you probably here is, so can anyone experience Tantra? Any age group, or is it age limited?
Oh, yes, yeah. We have such a wonderful variety of people. We've had young girls coming to our workshop from up 19 years to, my oldest client that I see on a fairly regular basis is 86. We've had clients that have just had such huge transformations in their life, and from a fairly old age, and people coming from 70 and just having a total life transformation, or for the first time really seeing the flowers, noticing just tiny little things that have made such a big difference to his life now that before we would have just walked on past. So I think majority of the people that come to our workshops are 40 plus. So people are maybe just deciding, seeing that there must be more to life. But Tantra is for everybody, any age group and any gender. And we ourselves, we don't work with gender. We've moved away from having our workshops that need to be gender focused and paired up male-female. We don't work with masculine or feminine. We've all got everything inside of us. And we respect every single person, no matter what gender they identify with at that time.
And it's amazing with gender, because of this notification of separation in traditional Tantra, people have taken it to mean masculine and feminine, or male and female. But we only work with gender boundaries. I don't know if you know, in ancient Egypt they had 64 different terms for gender. And we cannot fit the whole complexity of human sexuality into two genders. There are so many different types that there is transgender. There are intersexed. So when we work actually more along the terms of active and receptive energies, we're actually moving away from gender. We're making it all inclusive so that everybody can experience Tantra should they choose to.
And you can be single and have a full tantric lifestyle. You know, if you don't need a partner to do most of the exercises, everything can be done on your own.
And you can be celibate. Mm-hmm. You can just simply use the breathing techniques to allow this energy to be generated and moved through the body. So it's for absolutely everybody.
Wonderful. I just wanted to ask you, could you just give us your Awakening Tantra, the website details, please? Or Tantra Awakening?
Our website is www.tantraawakenings.org. And we do a lot of workshops in Ireland, in the UK, up in Northern Ireland, and up in England as well. So we do travel a lot. We are based in Ireland, but we do travel quite a bit and do workshops in South Africa and all over the place. We're looking at doing one in Spain coming up in the next few months as well.
Okay, so while we're contemplating on the website again, so that our listeners can go back and have a look at your website, just give that one more time for me, please, Karen.
It's www.tantraawakenings.org.
And whilst we've got a few moments of listening to this piece of music, you can have a look and browse through this website and come back, and probably you can message us if you wish, or any thoughts. So if you're quite happily listening in, that's absolutely fine. We've got some more questions coming up for Karen and for Mark on Tantra and finding out a little bit more on this. And in just a couple of moments' time, we'll be back to speak to both of them. Go and have a little browse at the website, and maybe you can see what really Tantra Awakening is all about, as we're talking about this as well here. And welcome back to Celestial Radio. My name is Parveen Smith, and I'm having this wonderful show coming in from Ireland with Mark Sutton, and we've got Karen O'Moore with us here on Celestial Radio, talking about Tantra. And what is Tantra? We're going to be also talking about Tantra Awakenings as well, because that is actually the website for this understanding on Tantra. We're going to be looking at sharing with you, can we understand what is the bioenergetics of this as well? And that's my next question. What is the bioenergetics of this? If you could explain that for me, Mark.
Sure, yeah. Bioenergetics is the work of Willem Reich and then taken on by one of his students, Alexander Lowen. And they believed that in its essential that the emotions and the physical sensations in the body and the blocks of energy are all connected. If you like, a repressed emotion causes a tension, which causes a block in energy. And if you can release the energy, you then release the tension and release the repressed emotion. So in other words, moving into a state where you have a free flow of energy within the body allows you to release all these repressed emotions, allows the body to go into a state of complete relaxation, and can lead to a major shift in your health, in your emotional health and your physical health. It believes that everything is connected, which is a very tantric way of looking at things, that everything is connected. And Reich himself believed that the most powerful energy that we could use was the orgasmic energy, the sexual energy that we actually have. And so we work with allowing you to breathe, just simply following your breath and awareness, to create and generate energy within the pelvis and begin to allow it to move up what is known in the Taoist as the hollow bamboo, and in the Tantric system as the inner fluid, which connects all our chakras. And you can draw energy away from the pelvis and through the whole body and begin to clear out, if you like, all that's been holding you back. That's the essence of bioenergetics.
Okay. Also, we have some more thoughts coming in for you here that obviously when we look at doing this sort of work, we have to be, well, the person who's actually taking you through this, the bioenergetics and teaching and sort of coaching you, they have to be qualified to a certain level or have experience. And if that is the case, how would you find a teacher?
Well, there's certain things Go with your gut will be one of them. Have a look at who is out there, who is teaching. And there are certain questions that you can ask them, which tantric path, lineage that they're on. For example, myself and Karen can say that we have two teachers. One would be Dawn Cartwright, who trained with Margot Nand, who trained with Osho. So you can see there's a lineage going backwards. And the second one would be Barbara Corellis, who's based in New York. And she has come from a totally different aspect. She's come from sort of more transgender aspects. So it's almost like a new school, but they appeal to us. And you ask the questions, what is involved in the teaching? Where is the focus? Is it a generalized focus? Is it specifically on sexuality? Is it on transformation? What techniques do you have? You put the onus on the teacher to give you the information to ensure that you have everything you need to say, yes, you're the teacher for me. You listen to what other people are saying. Not necessarily the blurb that's on the website, but what other people are saying around in the general sphere. And the internet is great for this. You can look at various schools of Tantra and see what people are actually saying about that. So arm yourself with the information before you choose the teacher you want.
And also make sure before when you do choose is to make sure that what boundaries and everything are being set in place, and make sure that those stay there. And just always keep listening to yourself, and if you're not happy with something, to be able to say no, and just really listening to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's really, really important at any time. And it's something we make very clear. Any time in any of our workshops anybody's feeling comfortable, they don't have to do anything. They can sit out of the process. They can just simply put a hand up and we'll be there. It's where it's client focus.
Mm-hmm.
What is the focus of the teacher? Is it on the client? Is it the client's welfare uppermost? Because when you have a client who is going through a process, all you do is support them in that process. It's not about the teacher. It's always about the client. That's my belief.
Yes, and also what I'd like to also say is that because obviously you have Tantra Awakening workshops, I believe, and how do they actually work?
Well, our workshops are very much focused on breath and awareness. So there's all fully clothed. There's no nudity or anything in our workshops, no massage or any kind of touch like that. And again, are available for anybody, no matter what age or whether you single or married or in a relationship. And in the morning sessions, we do a whole lot of breath work and meditation techniques, tantra techniques that allow you to really connect to your breath, to connect to your energy, connect to your different chakras, and start allowing that energy to move through your body. So becoming a full body experience and allowing healing to occur in the body through your own energy. We do one of Osho's meditations in one of them that really allows any energy blocks to shift. One of the great things about Tantra is it really brings up anything that we might have happily just swept under the carpet. It brings it up, because you need to deal with it to be able to move forward and to live a life that you really want to and really desire to. Mm-hmm. And then we do some wonderful, really gentle communication techniques in the afternoon, learning how to connect with another person. And again, they don't have to be a partner. They can be done with anyone. And then we have different level workshops. Our next level, we take up the energy a little bit more. We do an amazing energygasm technique, which is really allowing your body to become to a really wonderful orgasmic state, just through breathing. No touching, no nothing, just simply just breathing the energy through your body. And orgasmic state can really mean anything. It can be, you can be just feeling an emotion, feeling intensely, whether that is crying, laughing, being anger, whatever it is, just really feeling that with an absolute intenseness and depth in your body.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And what I wanted to ask the next question, and coming quite close to the end of the show right now, is that if anybody wants to attend your workshops, if they couldn't get to you, do you travel to them? Because you're based in Ireland.
We hold workshops all over the country and the UK as well. If there is anybody that is interested in having a workshop, attending to one of our workshops, they can always get hold of us, and we can see, the viability of having a workshop in that area. So we try not to limit, our workshops to one area, and we try and travel around as much as possible because we just want to share this journey with as many people as possible. So we will endeavour to get out there. So people are more than welcome just to email us and say, look, I'm in this area, is there any chance of you guys coming out here?
And certainly we've plans to come to the UK as well. We have one or two contacts around the Manchester region, for example, who would be interested in us actually coming out. So the answer is just keep checking our website as well. We will be coming out to just as widespread as we can. I say we travelled the whole of Ireland last year and then went to South Africa. And this year it's the UK, and we'll be in Bristol in August. And chances of Spain. So yeah, we really do travel.
Wonderful. So we're coming quite close to the end of this show, Mark and Karen. Just want to say thank you very much for taking this particular show with us today to make more awareness of what Tantra is and how Tantra bodywork does work, the bioenergetics of this and the breath work as well, and clearing out some aspects of that may be, misconceived in the past, and bringing that understanding and balance into what Tantra really is and how it can be supportive to some people, as we already said, helps people to sort of maybe relax, maybe come to terms with their emotions, maybe come to terms with sexuality, whichever area that we've sort of talked about today. It's bringing more understanding to the public, really, of how Tantra really can work for individuals.
Yes, and thank you very much, Parveen, for having us, and thank you for all the hard work that you're doing as well.
Oh,
thank you very much, Parveen. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to take everybody to the top of this hour here on Celestial Radio. Do go back to having a look at Tantra Awakening's website, and simply by going to www.tantraawakenings.org and have a look to see what's going on there. And if anything interests you, do contact Karen and do contact Mark for further information.